for ESG and ESG-CV. My name is Kimberly Simpson and I am today's moderator. If you are just joining us, please go to the chat and introduce yourself with your name and the region you represent. As a reminder, this office hours session is recorded for public record. A copy of the slide deck and recording will be emailed to all attendees. Next slide, please. How to ask a question. All questions must be submitted in the chat box. Please type your question into the chat box. The team will read questions out loud at the end of the presentation and will provide answers if possible throughout the presentation. All questions and answers entered into the chat box will be recorded as part of the public record. Alongside our presenters, we also have several HCD staff, including ESG representatives, ESG-CV grant administrators, and other consultants who are able to answer questions during the Q&A session. Next slide, please. Today's office hours session agenda includes ESG and ESG-CV updates, office hour updates, ESG and ESG-CV Q&A, and our Spotlight series today, which is California Homeless Data Information System and HMIS. And now I will turn it over to Connie, who will give you all ESG updates.
Good morning, everybody. All right, 2022 ESG NOFN applications. We are still on track to release those the end of this month, so they are coming soon. And we are planning our webinars, which would be for both the COC and the balance of state NOFAs and those applicants the first week in June. And you will be receiving some notifications soon about all that. Those with 2021 ESG awards, we have already started routing some standard agreements. We hope to have all of the 2021 contracts, those folks that were awarded under the 2021 allocation, executed for you by the end of July. And again, as a reminder, 2020 folks, if you have a 2020 contract and the expenditure date is July 7th, and if you are struggling to spend your money, please reach out to your rep. If you at this point feel like you're not going to be able to spend it, you please let us know now and we can start working on closing out and disencumbering funds. But we really, really need you to reach out to your rep. You can reach out to me. We will have a meeting with you. We'd be happy to talk through maybe some, see if there's something we can help you with. But it really is time to start thinking about that July 7th expenditure deadline if you have a 2020 contract. Next slide, please. All right, again, personal identifying information, PII. We have a new PII policy document. It will be posted to our ESG webpage in the next couple days for you. We are really excited to have this actually done in writing, and it will be something that we're going to be talking a lot about. And for all the grantees, it's really important to pay attention and not submit any kind of documentation, whether it's a detailed expense report or any kind of backup documentation that has personal identifying information for clients. We have also now a secure site. Hopefully all of you that have an annual or have had annual ESG contracts with us have received an email, not only from your rep and our IT department, with a link telling you how to get into your secure site. So again, this is new. We do have a secure SharePoint site now for you to drop all your backup documentations into your own personal folder and no longer emailing them to your rep. If this doesn't sound familiar or you haven't received any kind of information from our IT department, check your spam folder. And if you can't find it there, then please reach out to your rep or me, and we will work with you and get things going. So real important to get that on board. For those that are submitting detailed expense reports, please do not submit a client's name. Please give us their HMIS or a unique identifying number for them. And again, Even when dropping documents with any kind of client information into our secure site, we do ask that you still redact all that personal information. And next slide, please. And again, I always like to showcase our ESG annual reps. They are here for you. We also have that ESG NOFA at hcd.ca.gov inbox. If you're not sure who to email things to, we monitor that inbox several times throughout the day, and we will be responsive to your questions. And that is all I have today. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Connie. And now I just have a few ESG-CV updates and reminders. In order to meet HUD's 50% expenditure deadline in June, please submit an RFF to your grant administrator via email by June 2nd. Please include as many expenses as possible. As a reminder, you must redact all client personal identifying information in your backup documentation, such as their name, their address, and etc. Any RFF submissions with client PII will be returned for changes. Additionally, please redact employees' social security numbers in your backup documentation. Again, any RFF submission with employee SS social security number will be returned. Next slide, please. Upcoming office hour topics. May 25th, we will have the Rent Reasonable and Fair Market Rent Clinic. On June the 1st, we will have the Diversity in COC Leadership with focus on people with lived experiences, LGBTQ, and racial equity. And on June 8th, we will have the Authentic Engagement of Persons with Lived Experiences. And someone is going to drop the training website link into the chat for you all. Next slide, please. We have included on this slide some COVID response resources links for you all. Next slide, please. And then on this slide, we have included ESG resource links. And again, all of these links will be emailed out to you all. Next slide, please. Do we have any questions?
Looks like we have one question that might be for Connie.
So I'll go ahead. It looks like it's from Catherine. Is the SharePoint secure site the same as for ESG Cares? So for your CV contract, it is a different, it's going to be a different link, Catherine. So reach out to us and we'll make sure you get that, but it would not be the same. It's the same site, but a different location for you to go to as far as your folder for your annual ESG.
All right, and there does not seem to be any more questions.
Nope.
Now,
one more for Connie, probably.
it's one more, Erin. Okay, I'm sorry.
Let's see, when submitting a fiscal request within our agency, should we use HMIS numbers instead of the name fiscal? Oh, within your agency, I guess I'm not understanding. Within your agency or submitting it to us?
Hello, Connie. So my question is, when I request a check from my fiscal department, should I include the HMIS number only or the name as well?
I guess that would be your internal policy, but when you submit it to us, we don't want to see the client's name.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
So I think it would be wise if you start getting everybody used to submitting them with HMIS numbers.
Thank you. I'll start doing that.
Okay, thanks, Maria.
Just making sure that there are no more questions. Okay, I don't see any more questions. All right, now I will turn it over to Chris Pitcher, who will be doing our spotlight series, California Homeless Data Information System in HMIS.
Thanks, Kim, and thanks everybody for joining us today. I am going to talk about our spotlight today. We're going to talk about HMIS, Homeless Benefit Information System, and the Homeless Data Integration System and how it relates to ESG and ESG-CV, because there are some things that some folks know and some things that other folks might not know. We've been working on a project with Cal ICH on HDIS and outcome measures. I just want to walk you through all that just to give you some information. There's really not a lot to share as far as data today. We are still testing the logic of our outcome measures, so we don't have any information to share with you yet, but we're getting much closer. Next slide, please. All right, so we're going to talk about just a few things. I'm going to talk about HMIS and ESG-CV. ESG-CV HMIS project setup. We have some formal guidance that folks are beginning to use. We want to keep that going. We're going to talk about HDIS and its relationship to ESG-CV. And then I'm going to go through each of our 7 outcome measures. Technically it's 14, but I'll explain that in a moment. And then how this connects to annual ESG, what we plan to do with data moving forward. Next slide. HMIS. So the pieces that you have to remember for ESG-CV for HMIS is that we want you to adhere to the California HCD HMIS setup guidance. I have communicated that directly between myself and HMIS lead at every COC in the state. It basically is going to tell you what to put in project setup so that we can find that information when we get to looking at the homelessness data information system, integration system, excuse me. HMIS is going to collect all data on ESG-CV funded projects except for DV that are prohibited by the Violence Against Women Act from doing so. So if your HMIS is doing that, if it's set up correctly, if it's capturing all data on all ESG-CV funded programs that are not domestic violence, you're doing everything correct. You also need to report quarterly to SAGE from your HMIS in what people lovingly referred to as bundles. If you know what bundles are, you know what bundles are. If you don't, you probably don't need to know at this point, but we'll be doing quarterly reports in SAGE through the life cycle of ESG-CV, which is currently September 2023. And the last part that's really critical to this project is uploading data to the homeless data integration system from California, which I will go into more details on the next few slides. Okay, what did we say in our HMIS setup guidance for ESG-CV? And yes, we did not have this ready when ESG-CV started. This was midway, so we've had to make some adjustments. The first is we want you to follow the ESG manual that HUD puts out. So when you get these materials, there'll be a link to that. That is the guiding document for us. The only extra step that we're asking for any ESG-CV funded project, so that's existing, or as you bring them online, is that you follow the setup guidance that is on this slide. So we are asking that all California funded California HCD funded ESG-CV projects are in HMIS, and we have added we give you the contract number that you want to put in your project descriptor data elements. So in data element 2.06, known as funding sources, we're going to, in dependent question A, select 46 with the following code, California HCD ESG-CV. And then in dependent A, this is the really important one, enter your specific code, which will be ESG-CV 1-00, and then you'll have a 2-number integer. It goes from 0 to 1 to 40. So if you don't know that, I have the code, I can get that to you. But in my conversations with all of the HMIS leads across the state, this has been done. We just have to remember to keep doing it as new projects come online. So that's really important guidance that we set out in February, March of this year. So all HMIS should be ready to go. Next slide. Next slide, please. Didn't see it move. There it goes. Okay, thank you. So if we put those codes in our HMIS and we are uploading data to HDIS, which is the Homeless Data Integration System, we will be able to work with the state of California, California ICH, to get into HDIS and pull information just for the state program. So we rely on those codes, that ESG-CV 1-00, number to be able to differentiate California HCD ESG data from other ESG-CV sources like the city of Los Angeles or Sacramento or San Diego. That information will be in HDIS as well. We want to pull the state stuff out so we can really look at it. That creates our universe for our ESG-CV outcome report that I'm going to detail in a moment. Leveraging HDIS also means that California HCD will not need to reach out to all of you for more information. We have the outcome measures we need to understand if the ESG-CV program is operating at a high level or not. It is just an HDIS, and it is not always going to be super up to date. We're always going to be about a quarter or two behind where we need to be as far as understanding our performance, but it gives us a baseline to understand ESG-CV performance. Next slide. Okay, so the measures, I'm going to go through 7, and then I'm going to show you an 8th slide that we'll talk about racial equity. So these are the measures we came up with. They are not identical to HUD performance outcome measures, largely because we wanted to be more inclusive of projects, and we needed to make sure that all of our projects had some level of outcome measures, which includes homelessness prevention, which does not have an outcome measure at the HUD level. So our first outcome measure is in regards to rapid rehousing, and this is the percentage of people who remained in rapid rehousing at a 6-month look, a 9-month look, and a 12-month look. This is any client with an enrollment and a housing move-in date in an ESG-CV rapid rehousing programs that remained in those programs 6, 9, and 12 months. Those are 3 different percentages that will happen in the report generation. So we'll be able to see community by community, program by program, how we are doing at retaining folks in rapid rehousing. Next slide. Number 2 has to do with emergency shelter. So this is a reduction in the average and median length of stay in emergency shelter. So that's any client with an enrollment in ESG-CV emergency shelter or a temporary emergency shelter that has an exit or is still enrolled. And a reduction will be determined through a quarter by quarter analysis of this metric. So we'll get the median and we'll get the average and we'll look at it every quarter. Say, okay, yep, it's different, it's less, it's more. The main idea here is to try to understand if folks are staying in emergency shelter for a long time, what that might have an impact on our system. But it's not the only measure for emergency shelter because just the length of stay only tells us one thing. Next slide. To answer the question in the chat from Teddy, will analysis be done on the gap between the average and the medians? We haven't seen the data yet. We're going to look at it and see what type of analysis needs to be done on this data. Right now, it is just logic. It is not actual real data that we can look at and say, yep, there's something here or there isn't. So some of this is likely to change and evolve over the life cycle of ESG-CV as we do dig in a little bit deeper into the analysis. Our next one on emergency shelters is exit to a positive housing destination. So that's any client with an ESG-CV emergency shelter or temporary emergency shelter enrollment with an exit destination of, and I've just listed them all here because I just need to have room on the slide, but it's any housing destination that is further along towards stable permanent housing than emergency shelter. So that could be transitional housing, it could be rapid rehousing, could be permanent housing, could be permanent supportive housing, could be EHV. There's a lot of stuff in here that it could be. So anything that looks like a positive movement out of shelter, we are going to be able to say, yep, those are positive exits and it looks good. We like the way those things look. So that's what all those numbers mean. They're all actually codes for program types that I didn't have space to spell out. Next slide. All right, our second rapid rehousing one is rapid rehousing exits to a positive housing destination. Sounds a lot like the last one, except it's farther along in the progression towards permanent stable housing. So that's any client with an enrollment in ESG-CV RRH and a housing move-in date and any exit destination that is of equal or greater than rapid rehousing. So other permanent supportive housing, other rapid rehousing, anything that's not going backwards, like to emergency shelter or back onto the street. Those would not be counted as positive housing destinations for those in rapid rehousing projects. Next measure, please. Okay, so this is our recidivism one. The percentage of people who return to homelessness, that's emergency shelter, temporary emergency shelter, or street outreach from a permanent housing destination. So that's rapid rehousing, permanent supportive housing in a 6 to 9, 12 month look back. So any client that has a RRH exit that has a return to any, not just ESG-CV funded, but any emergency shelter or temporary shelter or street outreach project in 6 to 9 and 12 months. Next measure, please. All right, just a couple left. So I believe this is number 6, is the percentage of people that obtain a positive housing destination, which could be emergency shelter, temporary emergency shelter, safe haven, transitional housing, rapid housing, permanent supportive housing, other permanent housing from street outreach. So this is, we working with someone in street outreach, they have a date of engagement, they have an exit of, and you see this is a much longer list because on the street, there's only really going up, moving towards a more permanent housing, stable housing destination. So it could be shelter, could be transitional housing, could be permanent housing, but it says our street outreach programs are getting folks off the street, basically. And the next slide is on, I believe, homelessness prevention. And that is the percentage of people who enter the homeless service system in emergency shelter, temporary emergency shelter, or street outreach after receiving ESG-CV homelessness prevention financial assistance. So someone came to us, they were on the verge of being evicted, we helped them, 6 months later, they actually become homeless. That we want to know. That is a measure that says our homelessness prevention is not either enough or not targeting the right folks or not being too late in its assistance. So any client that has an enrollment in a emergency shelter, temporary emergency shelter, or street outreach program that has previously been in in a homelessness prevention program and received financial assistance but still becomes homeless, that's what we want to know. So last measure is all that I just said. So the 2 for rapid rehousing, the recidivism, the ones for street outreach, emergency shelter, and homelessness prevention are also going to be duplicated, and we're going to look at them based on our racial equity, through a racial equity lens. So we'll split that out by those that identify as American Indian and Native Alaskan, Asian, Black, African American, Native Hawaiian, other Pacific Islander, white, and our Hispanic Latinx community. So we'll be able to look at this data and see if there are disparities by race in those 7 measures as well. That is it. That's what we are going to look at the state level for the ESG-CV program. As I said, we don't have data yet. We're close. I think about 2 or 3 weeks away, we'll be able to start actually analyzing data. I have done 2 rounds of outreach to HMIS leads across the state of California to look at data, and we should be done with that. Hopefully in a few months, I'll be able to actually show you what the data looks like for the ESG-CV program run by the state of California, HCD. Next slide. All right, so what? So we're doing this for ESG-CV, but ESG-CV is going to end in September. So we're done, right? We're not done. Once we get this figured out, we begin working with the annual ESG team, Connie and her team, to figure out how we can develop a similar, if not the same, setup guidance that you annually set up your ESG, state-funded ESG in a certain way, and then outcome measures. Are the 7 that we came up with, plus the racial equity, is that the right fit? If it is, great, we'll continue to do that. If not, we will amend, we will change, we will adapt, and begin doing this with HDIS for annual ESG. We're doing that this year. Not sure it's going to finish this year. It might eke into 2023, but this is something that for ESG is going to become a standard process for annual ESG as well. Much of this work has come out of two things. One is that HDIS exists, and second is that the state of California HCD needs to understand how their programs are operating to be able to be as effective as possible in our funding, in our funding decisions. So we're going to use this data to make sure that we improve the ESG program annually. Next slide, please. That is it. I would love to hear any discussion you might have. I do see there's a comment here from Teddy that I'll take care of in just a moment. But if you want to come off mute, again, these spotlight series are your space as well. If you want to come off mute and ask questions about the measures or ask questions about the process, or just discuss what's going on as far as data with you, please do that. You can raise your hand, unmute yourself. I'm going to start with the question from Teddy, and then I see Melinda is going to, has raised her hand that we will call on Melinda next. So Teddy says, will these outcome measures eventually be reflected in public-facing HDIS? We haven't got that far, Teddy, to be quite frank. I think it could be. I also know that California state IT processes aren't always the easiest to get things posted. So this may end up, maybe on an HCD site. This may end up on the HDS site. We haven't got there as far as that. We wanted to get the universe correct with our PDEs being set up correctly so we can pull our universe from HDIS. And then we wanted to test the measures and see if is it really telling us the story we think it's supposed to tell us, or did we get the measures off? So I would think probably the next 6 months, we get through those two pieces, understanding our universe, having it correct, and the measures, are they actually measuring the right things? And then we could probably begin getting ourselves in a place where we could show that information publicly. And will there be monitoring on these HMIS results? We haven't gotten that far. I don't believe we're going to use the information from HDIS to monitor, but we might, when we're monitoring, use some of that information to just help us understand what's happening locally. The annual team and the ESG-CV team and I haven't we haven't had the data long enough to be able to do anything with it. So those are questions from Teddy. If you have any more, Teddy, I know you know how to enter them in the chat. Melinda, I see your hand raised. Go ahead and ask your question, please.
I'm sorry, is this going forward, or is this data that should have already been collected?
The data has already been collected. So what
Oh,
you're
okay.
doing is you're collecting the data real time in HMIS. And every quarter, you're taking your HMIS data and giving it to HDIS.
Got it.
And we're going to HDIS to get the data from them instead of coming to all 40 of you and bothering you all for it. You're already doing this process as a member of HDIS, which every COC across California is. So as long as you're doing your HMIS data entry with due diligence, you have done all you have to do. The HMIS lead will take your data, give it to HDIS. We'll go to HDIS and pull our universe and look at those measures. As I got to the question with Teddy, at some point get those so you can actually see what's happening, not only for your community, but for everybody else.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions, concerns, comments? Looking at data quality as well. Yes, we're looking at data quality. Our data is only as good as the data in HMIS. HDIS cannot fix data quality. It is just going to take the data quality problems you have. So I think our data, we looked at it when we first got it, data 5 years ago, it wasn't so good. It feels like a lot of data quality has been getting better as HUD itself cracks open your HMIS and looks at data quality when it comes to the AHAR, when it comes to LSA and other data that we're actually able to see now at the HUD level. So I've seen data quality improve over time. Obviously, it's never going to be perfect. It is a labor that has to continue all the time on data quality. But we have no ability after we pull our data from HDIS to do anything with the data quality. It has to be quality in, or we can't do anything with it. That is a great question, Jerry. I think we definitely could. I don't know that we have the Cal ICH folks have had the time to go beyond what they've already put out there as their reporting on the HDIS website, which if someone could drop that in the chat, I'd really appreciate it. California HDIS is all you have to Google and it'll pop right up. They do have data up there. I don't think it talks about elders becoming homeless. Definitely the data is there because we have homeless status and we have age, we could do it. I don't think anyone has actually put that much in there yet. And thank you, Aaron, for dropping that in the chat. That is the link to California HDIS. So Jerry, if that didn't answer your question, you're happy to pop off, but I just don't think we've gotten that far in the development of HDIS itself. It's not that old. It's barely over a year old. It came out in April of 2021. Any other questions, comments, concerns, things folks want to talk about data-wise? I am here to talk data until you tire of it. Will I be talking about the development of HDIS in future meetings? Maybe, maybe not. As just a person connected to HDIS, I don't operate or run HDIS. I do know them well, but they are often the folks that are coming up with the development ideas. I know they're working on system performance measures as well for the entire system, which would look different from what ESG-CV might be interested in. But that is something that I think I'll leave probably more to them. So I think Cal ICH meetings are the place where folks would most likely have those conversations. Though if it affects ESG or ESG-CV, I will definitely be talking about it in this locale. Okay, anything else? Excellent. With that, we're going to have a very short office hour this week, which I think is just fine. We all have very busy schedules. So thank you very much for attending today. And if there are any other questions, I'll hang out just a minute to catch them. Otherwise, we'll stop the recording and we will see you next week.